Have you ever thought about why some women choose to live on their own? No boyfriend, no partner, not even acting like they're searching for one. The reason isn't loneliness, lack of attention, or broken hearts. It's something deeper, more challenging to accept, something that questions everything we were taught about what a woman should be. Because when a woman decides to walk alone, she's not getting lost, she's actually finding herself. And that kind of discovery doesn't come with praise, likes, or company. It comes wrapped in silence, in quiet strength, and a type of freedom that most people don't really understand. No, she's not lonely. She's just careful about who she lets in. She's not cold. She simply stopped burning herself out for people who never wanted to feel the fire she carried. There's something incredibly powerful and even intimidating about a woman who doesn't need to be in a relationship to feel complete. That kind of woman breaks down the need for control, exposes the lie of emotional dependence, and reveals a truth that makes many people uncomfortable, especially men who don't know how to respond to a woman who doesn't need fixing. And many women are just starting to see themselves clearly in that quiet but overwhelming reflection of power. Carl Jung once said that the things we deny within ourselves form part of our shadow. And a lot of these women standing strong on their own are actually reflections of that shadow. They are the image of what many want to become, but few are brave enough to become. They don't scream out for love. They whisper with their choices. They don't put themselves out there just to get attention. They step back to protect their peace. They aren't chasing fairy tales. They're nurturing inner peace. And that unsettles people. Because while the world pushes the idea that you must urgently find someone to be with, these women have found strength in simply being with themselves. The woman who walks this path alone, without a boyfriend, without needing constant affection, isn't confused or broken. She's simply moving on a different frequency. One where she doesn't have to beg for anything. She chooses. Where she doesn't need others' approval, her presence is enough. And maybe that's why she sparks so much conversation, so much misunderstanding, so many efforts to give her a label. But what most people don't realize is that behind what they call absence is a deeper kind of presence. A presence that expands, that challenges, that confronts the emotional patterns we were all taught to accept. She's not rejecting love. She's rejecting the kind that makes her smaller. And until a love appears that honors her as she is, she'll stand as she's always been. Strong, complete, unshaken. Maybe you don't fully understand it right now. Maybe you think it's pride, stubbornness, or some hidden pain disguised as confidence. But somewhere, deep in your spirit, a quiet question starts to rise. What if that silent walk, that stillness, is the only road that leads to the kind of love that actually lasts? The love that begins with you. The quiet surrounding a woman who lives alone isn't emptiness. It's a safe space. And the ones who don't know the value of that stillness are often the first to label her as cold or distant, even arrogant. But what they don't see is that she didn't build those walls to push the world away. She built them to keep herself from losing who she is. Carl Jung also said that what we don't deal with in ourselves, we push onto others. And maybe that's why many women still mix solitude with emptiness, when it could be the most fertile ground for growth. While most people try to find themselves by attaching to others, she turned her attention inward. And there, in the deep waters of her own mind, she faced the shadows she had run from for years. Ones from childhood, pain that was never spoken, and relationships that looked like love but were really chains. Her decision to be alone wasn't from being wounded. It was from healing. She didn't give up on love. She just stopped calling something love when it left her feeling small. This woman has seen storms. She's poured out her heart until there was nothing left. She's loved too hard. She's asked for scraps when she should have been served full meals of affection. But eventually, something inside her changed. And it wasn't one moment. It was years of disappointments that stopped hurting and started teaching. What you see now isn't a lack of feeling. It's maturity. And maturity is scary because it doesn't play games. It asks for truth, for real presence, for honesty. She doesn't want just anyone beside her. She wants someone who sees her clearly. Someone who doesn't just make promises, but actually shows up. Maybe that's why people feel like she's distant. Because she doesn't want to be rescued. She wants to be recognized. And that kind of recognition takes more than charm. It takes the bravery to go deep, to see the parts of her that aren't easily understood. And that's where most give up, not because she's too much, but because she is complete. And when a woman becomes whole, she awakens two very different things in the world: admiration and fear. Admiration from those on the same journey. Fear from those still trying to fill their emptiness with someone else. She's not here to complete anyone. She wants to overflow with someone who's already whole. And until that person appears, she stands alone, not because life forced her to, but because she's loyal to her soul. This woman isn't hiding from love. She's guarding her spirit. There's a big difference between running away from people and protecting your peace. But the world doesn't easily welcome a woman like that. A world that still says happiness only comes in pairs. A world that treats being single as if it's failure. Carl Jung once said that when we live by what's expected, we leave no space for real self-expression. And this woman doesn't live by society's rules. She lives by her truth. She hears people say things like, "You're too picky," or "Maybe you should settle," or "Nobody's perfect." And she smiles, not arrogantly, but knowingly. Because what they call being picky is just the standard she finally realized she deserved. She's not chasing perfection. She's hoping to meet someone who's also done the work. Someone who doesn't run from the hard things. And let's be honest, those kinds of people aren't standing on every corner. The discomfort she causes isn't about her words. It's about what she symbolizes. She is living proof that real happiness doesn't depend on anyone else. Her life shows that true joy can come from within. When she cries, it's not weakness. It's a breaking point that unmasks men who prey on women's insecurities. These types of men feel uneasy around her. Women still caught in the need to be liked or validated may feel judged by her, but she is not trying to challenge or expose anyone. She's simply living her truth. Her freedom becomes a silent reflection, revealing to others the chains they are still wearing. This woman is not in a race. She doesn't rush through life to satisfy expectations. She honors her own timing, and that alone upsets a world used to urgency and shortcuts. She craves meaning while the world rushes toward distractions. She wants genuine connection while society offers quick replies and shallow moments. She longs for soul, deep relationships, while many are more concerned with curating the perfect image for social media. And when she says no, it's not part of a game, it's her truth. When she walks away, she isn't seeking attention. It's her way of protecting her peace. When she chooses to stay home instead of going out with someone who feels empty, it's not because she feels superior. It's because she sees things clearly. That clarity came with deep pain, with surrender, and it's now her quiet revolution. She no longer lives to be liked. She lives to be real. And that choice to simply be herself is what makes her so threatening to a world built on appearances. What bothers people most about her is not her aloneness. It's the deep calm she carries within. Carl Jung once said that those who look outside are dreamers, but those who look within awaken. She chose to take that inner path. It wasn't a smooth or easy walk. It was painful and raw, peeling off the masks, confronting old fears of abandonment, and slowly rebuilding from nothing. She no longer sees herself through others' opinions. Now she sees with her own eyes, and that changes everything. How often have you questioned whether being alone means something is missing? How many times have you felt the need to explain why you're not with someone? She's been there too. She used to wonder if something was wrong with her for not being in a relationship, especially in a world that seems to worship couples, even when they're unhappy. But one day she realized something powerful: being alone is far better than being invisible next to someone. That was the day she promised herself that she would never again settle for less than what she truly deserves. Her journey is not a straight line. There are moments filled with doubt, waves of longing, and nights full of silence. But there's also a growing strength that comes from choosing with intention. She learned that real love does not trap, does not devour, and does not control. The kind of love she's waiting for is the one that gives freedom, brings light, and supports without taking her voice. Until she finds that, she's committed to growing on her own, not because she's proud, but because she values truth. She represents what Jung called individuation. She broke apart, stared into the darkness of her past, embraced her shadow, and returned more whole than she had ever been. Now that she finally knows who she is, she refuses to be half of anything. She's not searching for someone to fill a gap. She's open to sharing life with someone who also knows who they are. That kind of connection is rare because it demands emotional maturity. Unfortunately, most still love out of emptiness, possessiveness, or fear. So if she walks alone today, it's not because she's broken. It's because she has learned. Each step she takes is filled with lessons. Every time she says no, it's an act of self-respect. Every time she creates distance, it's a reminder that love should never be begged for. She doesn't need to prove her worth anymore. That quiet certainty rooted deep in her spirit shifts the energy of any room she enters. A woman who has found herself becomes powerful, not because of aggression, but because of her peace. The woman who lives without a boyfriend now is not the same one who once cried to be loved. Something deep inside her cracked, and it was that very breaking that opened the door to her freedom. Sometimes, only in falling apart does the soul reshape itself. Carl Jung once said that the tree that reaches for the sky must have roots deep in the earth, sometimes even touching hell. That's the truth she's lived. She went into the depths of her own story. She faced the fears passed down through generations, healed wounds that weren't just hers, but those of her mother, grandmother, and so many women before her. She broke patterns. She said no to repeating toxic love stories. She learned it's not her job to fix people, to sacrifice herself, or to accept bits and pieces just to avoid being alone. When she stopped taking less than she deserved, the world pushed back. It told her she was wrong, too harsh, too distant. But she stayed firm, first with hesitation, then with awareness, and finally with full strength. Because when you've walked through your own darkness, you no longer fear being alone. She found comfort in silence. She became her own safe place. She isn't cold. She isn't unreachable. She just no longer lets others walk through her like an open door. There's a big difference between opening your heart and handing it over to be torn. She opens her heart, yes, but only to those who come with truth, not with sweet words or empty acts. She has seen enough to tell what's real from what's just a performance. Her intuition has become sharper. Her energy acts like a filter. She can sense from a distance what lacks sincerity, and she doesn't hesitate to step away. Her transformation isn't just surface level, it's deep and symbolic. It feels like she has tapped into something ancient, a wisdom passed down from generations. It's like she remembered something sacred, that women were never made just to serve, but to express, not to be molded, but to overflow. And in reaching for that memory, something came alive in her. A wild spirit, deeply intuitive, emotionally independent. A woman who, though she may walk alone, is not lost. She's connected to something bigger, something divine, her own path. And no matter how much they try to limit her with words like cold, hard, or distant, nothing really sticks anymore. Because she no longer lives to fit into boxes. She lives to grow beyond them. She no longer fights for eyes to see her. She simply radiates from within. She's not standing around waiting to be picked. She chooses for herself. That shift in energy unsettles those still trying to control what they don't understand. But she's no longer caught in that place. She's crossed a line. And on the other side, she discovered something beautiful. That the true connection starts only when you've loved yourself so fully that you're no longer searching for someone else to complete you. There is something sacred in how she moves through the world. She doesn't need praise or applause to feel valid. Her confidence is calm, and within that stillness lies her real power. Carl Jung once said that everything we face inside eventually becomes our outer story. Maybe that's why this woman, by choosing herself again and again, has started writing a destiny that few can grasp, but many secretly admire. She no longer tries to fill the emptiness with promises or force others to see her worth. She doesn't plead for space in anyone's world because she's realized that real presence should never be begged for. It must be welcomed. And when that welcome doesn't come from an honest place, she quietly steps away. She doesn't act out in anger or bitterness. She moves with the grace of someone who has been lost too many times to let the same pain return. What many people don't realize is that she still craves love. She still wants to be held, to be touched, to be seen. But she wants all of that without having to lose herself, because she has spent years trying to shrink into shapes too small for her soul. Now, she only brings her full self to places that can hold her entirely. That takes a maturity far beyond just romance. It demands awareness. It demands that one has stared into their own darkness and still chosen love. She's not chasing fairy tales. She's seeking a union of spirits, a connection without control, without power plays. A relationship where both can rise side by side without dimming their brightness, hiding their hurts, or crushing their dreams. And if that kind of love feels too heavy for some, so be it. She would rather be alone than survive on scraps of affection. To some, that may look like pride. But it's really just love for herself in its truest form. We are watching the rise of a new type of woman. A woman who stepped away from the shallow and dove into her depths. Who got tired of only being wanted and decided she deserved to be valued. Who chose solitude not because she stopped believing in love, but because she realized that love never asks you to shrink. And when a woman learns that truth, her whole world begins to shift. She no longer needs to shout to be noticed. Her presence arrives before she even speaks. Wherever she steps, the air changes, as if something in the room adjusts quietly but unmistakably. This isn't magic, it's energy. It's the quiet force of someone who has battled her deepest wars within and returned with peace. Not because she defeated every fear, but because she learned how to live beside them and not be controlled. As Jung might say, she found peace not by getting rid of her contradictions, but by embracing them all. This woman doesn't turn her back on love. She has simply stopped giving in to one-sided connections, where she must shrink so another can shine. She still wants to love, but in a love that doesn't ask her to hide, a love where she can be all of herself. Dark and light, joy and pain, silence and chaos. Because she finally sees that those who only love your good side don't yet know what real love is. And those who always demand you stay sweet haven't learned the importance of truth's bitterness, the kind that helps you grow. She's too whole now to settle for broken halves, too free to accept cages that pretend to be comfort, too tuned in to tolerate shallow ties, yet still strong enough to keep walking this path, even when it's painful, even when it's lonely, even when others don't understand. That's what it means to live with an awakened soul. It means letting go of quick praise in exchange for real truth. Deep down, the world is uneasy around women like her. Women who don't cling, who don't bow, who won't be shaped by force, because they shake the very foundations, challenging old beliefs, breaking silent deals that once whispered a woman is only worthy when she's with someone. But when she shatters those beliefs and writes her own story, she becomes something powerful. And that scares the system. So she goes on, sometimes with tears, sometimes with pride, but always with steady steps, because she knows now she's not truly alone. She has herself. And after everything she's survived, that's more than enough. The love that comes next won't be to rescue her, it'll be to celebrate with her. It won't come to fix her emptiness. It'll come to meet her overflow. When a woman walks her path alone, the world rushes to warn her that she's choosing wrong. But inside, she feels something coming together. It's not ego, it's not rebellion. It's something wiser, a voice born in stillness. The same kind of wisdom Carl Jung called individuation, the journey of becoming your full self without masks or compromises. And when that journey takes root, nothing outside her has more influence than the truth she feels deep in her chest. That truth doesn't need to scream. It can be heard in the quiet way she closes a door without anger, in the way she steps back from places that no longer feed her soul, in the soft, peaceful smile she carries even when no one is beside her, because she understands now, being alone isn't a punishment. It's a promise to stay loyal to her own spirit. And the spirit of a woman who is awakened doesn't submit, doesn't shrink, doesn't plead. It just is, and that is more than enough. The world will keep trying to tell her she's missing out. It will keep flashing distractions, plastic love stories, false fairy tales. But she's seen through it all. She understands it's not about finding someone to complete you. It's about never losing yourself again. And when that realization blooms, everything begins to change. Desire becomes clarity. Emptiness becomes choice. Waiting becomes a sacred road. And what once broke her now becomes her teacher. What once trapped her now sets her free. You can feel it deep within. That spark, that pull. Maybe it's a memory from long ago. Maybe it's an H that never had words. Maybe it's the echo of a woman you once were, or the one you are becoming now. Either way, something inside you is calling out to be seen. Something that no longer fits in your old world. And if you let it, it could shift how you love, how you connect, and most of all, how you see yourself. That woman who walks alone isn't just going her own way. She's a symbol of freedom, a living sign that it's possible to rebuild without rushing, without fear, and without having to prove anything. She's not ahead of anyone, but she doesn't follow either. She's finding her own way, unique, unrepeatable. And as she walks, she leaves behind little flames for others to find when they're ready to wake up too. If something in this touched you, it's probably because something deep within you is ready for a different kind of love. A love that starts with peace with yourself. A love that grows in stillness, honesty, and real presence. A love that cannot be faked, bought, or begged for. And if that kind of love hasn't come into your life yet, maybe it's because you first needed to become the kind of woman who won't settle for anything less than what she truly deserves. And if these words reached you at the right time, or stirred something inside that you forgot, you don't have to keep that to yourself. Share this message with other women who need to remember their own strength, like it. Leave a comment. Subscribe to this space. Not just from emotion, but with intention. Because when something stirs your soul, the best we can do is let it echo inside us and through us.